Join your host, Maddie Roche, as she brings you into a community of fee-only financial advisors who are successfully building profitable businesses that serve the next generation of clients. Learn from innovative advisors whose unique stories will inspire you to dream big and take action on your goals. Are you ready to live your best life and help your clients live theirs? Then you're in the right place.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I'm Maddie Roche, your host. I'm excited to have XYPN member Rosa, owner of Build a Better Financial Future, a fee-only firm in Las Vegas, Nevada, on the show today. Luis was XYPN's 1,000th member when he joined the network in September of last year, and it took Luis 7.5 months to get his firm registered, thanks to the state of Nevada's registration process. However, Luis was uniquely positioned for this delay and prepared for it. He remained engaged and employed while he waited patiently for his approval. Once approved, he was able to seamlessly transition nearly 24 clients into his firm so he could begin working with them on their financial planning and tax needs. Today, Luis talks about what it's been like to make that transition while dealing with a global pandemic. Luis speaks to the underrepresentation that this industry historically has had among so many groups of people, and he hypothesizes that as advisors continue to break out on their own and serve their ideal clients, this industry will reach more and more diverse populations. Luis also talks a lot about what it's like to run a firm as a solo advisor and how already he feels the pressure to hire, despite being only 6 months in. If you're interested in what it's like to start your firm and transition clients during a global pandemic, this episode is for you. Avocado toast, selfies, a mountain of student loan debt. Gen Y is anything but traditional, and with over 75 million people, it's a population you don't want to ignore. Learn more about how to serve this unique population in our guide called Attract and Profitably Serve Millennial Clients in Your RIA. Discover 3 key ways to tap into the millennial market and 6 things that they want from their financial advisor. Visit xyplanningnetwork.com/millennials for your free copy. You can find any of the resources we mentioned during the episode at xyplanningnetwork.com/271. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN radio listeners. It's the community of advisors we've all been waiting for, that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview with Luis. Hello, Luis. Welcome to XYPN Radio.
Thank you, Maddie. Pleasure being with you.
Yes, I've been so looking forward to having you on the show today.
Likewise.
Awesome. Well, let's get started, Luis, and go ahead and tell us a little bit about the firm you've built and where you're located and who you work with.
Yeah, so my firm is called Build a Better Financial Future, and it's buildabetterfinancialfuture.com. It's a mostly virtual firm. I live in Las Vegas right now. Most of my clients are on the East Coast, New York, Florida, all along the coast. And the people that I serve are typically Gen Xers who are very busy in their careers, are diligent savers, are looking to become diligent savers, are not following the latest hot stock, so no rich quick schemes, and they value advice and are willing to pay for it.
Awesome. And how many clients are you working with so far, and do you work remotely with them?
Yes. So right now, my firm is structured in 2 separate ways. I have AUM clients, right? So people that invest money with me, so I manage the assets. So assets under management, I have 29 households right now. And I also do taxes. I'm an IRS enrolled agent. So I did 101 tax returns this tax season, which includes 28 out of those 29 households. So figured 100 clients, 101 clients, the large majority tax only, small minority AUM. And right now I'm in the process of converting a lot of those AUM or tax only clients to an ongoing financial planning relationship now that I finally have my own firm and I'm able to do so.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I'm interested, Luis, you didn't start too long ago and you've had some pretty impressive growth and we'll talk about it. You've got a podcast and you've got your EA designation, running a great tax service. Tell us a bit about kind of when you started your firm and what that experience was like to launch your firm.
Yes. So believe it or not, I did my filing originally back at XYPN Live 2019.
Yes.
Sometime in late August, early September. And it took 7.5 months to finally get my registration. So I wanted to ideally launch my firm before tax season. So I was hoping that file in September and maybe done by December, January, transfer all my existing clients and then start tax season. But of course, that's not going to happen. So I got approved dead smack in the middle of COVID-19 pandemic on April 16th, 2020. So originally right after tax season, but then the compliance gods didn't realize that the government was going to extend the tax season deadline another 3 months. So I've only been in business, right, for just a couple of months.
Yes, awesome. And I want to dig in a little bit to kind of your work with clients before you were registered and if you brought any over. But I do want to give you a shout out that you were XYPN's 1,000th member. And
yes.
we actually, we had you on stage at our conference, like you said, at XYPN Live 2019. That was such a celebratory time. And we knew that you were walking into or were in the midst of a long registration process. And that's because you were in the state of Nevada, right?
Right. I did expect that. That is true.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about, because some advisors come to XYPN with a book of business that they're going to transfer over. Others have a tax firm that they've been working with different clients in before they have their RIA. What was your experience? And did you come with any clients before you registered?
Yes, I did. So the firm that I was affiliated with prior to launching my own firm also has kind of like a sister company, which is the TAMP that I'm using to do the investments. Mm-hmm. So they were completely okay with me and completely aware of the fact that I was going on my own, because my clients were mine anyway, that I had brought into the firm. So they were really helpful, in fact, where they said, just file for your registration, and the minute you're approved, we'll give you the U5 termination, and then we can sign a sub-advisor agreement with our firm, and then you can, it was a very easy process. They had to sign a couple of forms for the custodian and then one form or two forms for my firm, the investment advisor agreement, et cetera. So they were really helpful. So I couldn't have done that for 7.5 months and have zero income. Mm-hmm. So one thing I tell other advisors who are planning on leaving their firm, if they're leaving and the firm doesn't know it, make sure you know the expected turnaround time for your state, because you can be in limbo for quite a bit, say in this state, and that's really going to impact the ability to service your clients and for you to make money as well. So I was kind of lucky in that regard.
Yeah, you certainly were. So it sounds like you had been pretty open and transparent and they worked with you.
They sure did. Yeah. And the state of Nevada allows you to have dual registration. So they went above and beyond and actually did me a favor and allowed me to file my original paperwork as if I was going to continue to be registered with both firms. That way, there was really no gap in me being able to service my clients. So when I registered my firm, I was registered with both firms for a little bit. And then I was able to have like a window where I was able to have all my clients sign everything. And it was great because I was able to do it all using DocuSign. So there was not one single piece of paper that had to get mailed.
How nice. How nice. Awesome. Well, let's go back in time. I'm interested in your route into this industry. And please take as much time as you'd like to tell your story. But how did you get into this financial planning industry of ours?
Yeah, so I graduated college in 2001. So I'm definitely going to be aging myself here. And the economic times were not good at the time. I was applying for a ton of jobs. All I really wanted was a job. I had a BA in economics, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Like economics was super broad, and I truly didn't know what my career path would be. So my senior year, I was working at a law firm as a mailroom clerk, and one of my coworkers knew a certified financial planner professional that they said, you know what, I think it'll be worth for you guys to meet. And maybe you might end up working for him. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I'm looking for any opportunity I can get my hands on. I had no idea what a financial planner was at the time. Never heard of it. It was not offered as a major in my school. Nobody in my family ever had one or mentioned one. I mean, up to that point, none of us in my family owned even a stock or even had a 401k at the time. And I was like, yeah, let me talk to this guy, whatever. And I remember we met at a Yankee game. back in New York, and went to a baseball game. I knew nothing about baseball, so I didn't know what was going to come of it. I'm like, this guy's probably not going to like me because I'm a very weird, right, Dominican that doesn't know anything about baseball. So we got to talking, and he explained kind of like what he did. I still didn't get it, but he said, I'm looking to expand. He was partners with a CPA, and he said, we currently do our clients' taxes and financial planning and investing, but we like to expand our services and maybe offer mortgages and life insurance and things of that sort. So if you want to, you can come on board. So what we did was he hired me part-time. So I was still working in the mailroom, 8:30 to 4:30. And then I would drive from Westchester to the Bronx and be at his company from 5:30 to 9:30 at 10 o'clock at night for a couple of months. And then finally he was like, you know what, this is working out. Let's just do it full time. And then I left the mailroom job and started working for him in full time. It was February 2002. So I was started just being more of a administrative role, sitting in client meetings, taking notes, doing a lot of client paperwork for account applications, things of that sort. But then at the same time, I became registered with my mortgage license. For example, that's the first thing I believe I got. So I started doing mortgage loans. I had no idea what I was doing, but his clients were very patient and loyal to him. And they were like willing to, I guess, let me learn on them, right? Which was great. So I affiliated myself with a local mortgage company. And then I was doing the mortgages. And then I got my life insurance license. At some point, I even had a property and casualty insurance license. So I was doing like home and auto. Then since they did taxes, I started kind of dabbling in it, doing like the smaller tax returns or double checking some of the returns that were done before they were filing and things of that sort. And then eventually I got my IRS enrolled agent certification. I got my Series 6, my Series 7, the stockbroker's license. And then it just kind of like kept progressing, Series 66. And then at some point I was like, all right, well, I need to get my CFP certification. It's been like so many years in the industry. I have the experience, the hours, everything. So I moved from New York to Las Vegas because my wife went back to school and she got accepted to UNLV. And then I decided to stay here. And that's when kind of I had to go on my own in a sense and separate from the business back in New York. And then at that point, I got my CFP certification in November 2016.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you for that walkthrough. And I love that even nearly 20 years later, the power of a networking opportunity, like going to a Yankees game and the power of offering some part-time support, how much that can change our lives, right? That just that opportunity to do 4 hours of work extra on top of already a full-time job really translated into a whole new career for you, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yes, that's an excellent way of putting it. And I would have never imagined that when I first started.
Beautiful. Luis, I'm interested in the kind of services that you offer in your firm and given the kind of people that you work with. And I love how you at the start of this interview discuss kind of the psychographic niche, the kind of interests and passions and the do's and don'ts that your clients have. And it's not just, I work with doctors. I'm interested in how have you modeled your services to support the clients that you work with?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Your niche can be something that isn't necessarily tangible. So yeah, some people go after a specific career path or something like that, but you could also have personality traits. It's kind of hard to market to those, but you find your tribe. Eventually you see the people that are drawn to you that you enjoy working with. So the way, what I'm doing right now, I have tax only clients. I have AUM only clients, but my ideal relationship is somebody that does taxes, investments, and financial planning. And I feel like I can have the most impact with those people as well. So as I grow my practice, my thought process is eventually gradually change into a point where my clients have to be like an all or nothing kind of thing. So not that I'm going to get rid of some clients, but maybe I will stop accepting, for example, tax only clients, because I don't think I have the capacity myself to continue to just bring on individual tax only clients, even though it has been really good for me in terms of then being able to convert those people to planning relationships and AUM relationships. But ideally, I want to have a client relationship where one hand knows what the other one's doing and I'm doing it all for them, even if it's smaller numbers, right?
Yeah.
I think the numbers can support it.
I'm interested in how that conversation has gone from one to the other. And I love that you're interested in all or nothing. But how has the conversations with, say, your tax clients translated into conversations about your offering for financial planning?
It has gone really well. And I've been pretty excited about it because the clients really see the value in it. So I made up like this little PowerPoint presentation, and I basically email my clients and say, hey, now that I have my own firm, I have a lot more options and service models to offer you that I think you benefit from. I would love to have, on a call or Zoom call for 15 minutes. And I send them my link to my calendar. Everybody just clicks on it, makes an appointment. And then I go through this little PowerPoint presentation. It's probably like 4 slides. I show them, well, here's what we're doing right now. And I show like basic package, option A. I'm doing your tax returns, managing your assets, and answering your questions every now and then. Right. So a lot of my clients are used to that relationship where they could just schedule an appointment, pick up the phone and say, hey, can you help me out, fill out this financial aid form for my daughter, whatever it is. And I do it. And I wasn't charging anything extra for that in the past, but I'm only one person and I'm at a point where I can't continue to do that and grow. So what I'm telling them is, going forward, I can continue to do your tax returns and your investment management exactly how I've been doing all along. However, if you want to be able to then ask questions that are not related to taxes or investments, I'm offering this other service model, and it's called comprehensive financial planning, and it's ongoing. And then I go through a PowerPoint presentation of what that looks like, the types of meetings that we have, client, the initial consultation, data gathering, Money Guide Pro onboarding, the follow-up meeting to make sure I understand their goals, then the actual presentation meeting, and then the implementation. And I show them how I have a service calendar that we'll have throughout the year, focusing first on the action items that must be done first, and then the other stuff that isn't as urgent that we'll review throughout the year, open enrollment, things of that sort, year-end tax planning. And I like the fact that since I already do their taxes, I already have their 1040s and everything, and I already know their situation. So it makes it even easier. So I kind of tell them, if you don't want to upgrade to this premium package, then that is completely fine. What you can do every once in a while, if you want to have questions outside of taxes or investments, we can do an hourly type of thing. And I charge $300 an hour or 1 hour minimum. Some clients have opted to do that because they haven't been able to upgrade, which I understand. That's fine. So I don't want to leave them hanging, but it's like, all right, you might not be able to afford ongoing planning services, but I also can't continue to just hop on a call with you for an hour and help you do your financial aid form and not get paid for it just because, I charge you $300 for a tax return. Like, it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint, but they understand, so most people are opting to upgrade, and then some people can't, and they just say, all right, I'll just pay you for the hour. Maybe we'll have a few calls a year.
Great. I love that intentionality of your services. And it's amazing that even, post-launch, how things have evolved just in a few months of kind of you're realizing what works and what doesn't, what resonates and what doesn't. I must ask, the 7.5 months is going to catch our listeners off guard a bit in terms of your registration process. Did it have anything to do with the kind of service models that you were offering? What was the delay about in Nevada?
Well, it did not necessarily. I think they're just taking that long. From what I understand, I spoke with somebody that I met from that office that processed everything, and they said that there was only one person that handled every single application. And then, yes, to add complexity to it, I think a lot of states are just not used to the ongoing financial planning model. And there were some hiccups there. So to give you an example, a lot of them are very focused on AUM all the time and fees as they relate to those assets. So I was told, like, my fees couldn't exceed, say, 5% of a client's assets. But if somebody invested $5,000 with me having no account minimums, but they were paying me $3,000 a year for planning, well, I would then be in violation of that because they were looking at my fee as a whole. So it was like, well, no, they're two separate things. So I've had to kind of work around that where, all right, if you are a planning client that has less than, let's say, the most recent ADV update, if you have less than $500,000 invested, we can still work together. You pay me a planning fee. I can manage your assets and charge you nothing for the management. So I onboard them and just my fee is zero. And I just charge them a planning fee. And that seems to have satisfied that language. And then if somebody invests over $500,000, then it's the opposite, where my AUM fee will cover the tax return and the planning. So yes. That's kind of like how I had to work around it.
Yes. And not every state takes 7.5 months, but we do know, and we did know that it was going to take a while for this one. Did. And for other Nevada members. So let's go back a little bit. We ended at 2016 when you moved to Nevada. And I'm interested in what happened during those years, because you were really deeply involved in the mortgage and the insurance business. What made you flip to the fee-only side during those years?
Well, I feel like there was a gap in people being able to have access to true financial planning if they didn't have a lump sum of money to invest. So that kind of caught my attention. Everywhere that I've worked has always been very AUM focused. So I realized that some people just didn't have that kind of money, or if they did, it was trapped in a 401k that one couldn't manage anyway, but they still needed advice. And it seemed to me, at least at that point, that they just couldn't go anywhere they couldn't walk to a bank or one of the large firms and say, hey, I just need you to guide me. Like, I have no money to invest with you.
Advice.
Yeah, I need advice. And it just didn't seem like it was available. And everywhere that I worked was always very numbers based. And that's kind of like what clicked for me. You know, one of the firms that I used to work at, they started implementing this process. It was like, oh, you have to bring in $500,000 per month, and it still wasn't like sell this annuity per se, but it was still like, you need to produce. And I was like, well, it's just not me. Like, if the assets come, the assets come. It's a good model, right? It works, but then you leave so many people behind. So to me, it was like, I need to find something where I can work with people that don't have money to invest, but still can afford to pay for the advice. And that was like the driving force behind that.
Great. And when did you realize that going out on your own was a viable option?
I don't know exactly what I was searching for, but I remember I found an article, and it was Michael Kitces had interviewed Sophia Berra. Mm-hmm. And I read about, and I was just fascinated, like, what? Like, you can you can have your own firm and work virtually and work with young people. Like, that just, to me, like, that just did not exist. I was such like embedded into the whole like broker dealer world before that I just honestly did not know that was an option, right? So I don't know what I was searching for on Google, but somehow I came to that particular article, and then I reached out to Sophia, and she was very kind to just meet with me over the phone for a few minutes and just kind of told me what she did, and I was just fascinated. So then I learned about XYPN and everything, and I was like, wow, this is like a thing. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, it's not something that I ever dreamed of doing myself. Like, I just never thought, oh yeah, I want to open up my own firm. I was always kind of like trained to, all right, you get your book of business and you work for another firm, and they split, however they do it based on volume, 70-30 split. And then that's it. Like that was it. You just had to work for somebody else and build up your book. And that's all I knew about the industry from a compensation standpoint and a model perspective, So then when I started learning about XYPN and everything, I was like, wow, this is mind blowing to me. This is what I need. And nobody that I was affiliated gave me that option to say, yeah, go ahead and charge planning where you can have the person pay you monthly or quarterly. It was never an option. Some firms did offer planning, but it was either a way to get the assets, or maybe I can charge a one-time fee, and that's it. In a one-time, like, I couldn't charge a yearly or anything. It was just like, all right, you charge for this plan, you're done, and then hopefully get the assets later.
Yeah. I've worked with so many new XYPN members over the years that there is this like sigh of relief when they realize that XYPN exists. And I'm drawing this comparison because I was on your website yesterday, and I took that sigh of relief as I read it, that you transparently shared your own money mistakes. And then I can only imagine that your clients probably feel really similarly to the way that you felt when you found XY, that, wow, there is someone that will work with me when I don't have assets. What has your experience been meeting and prospecting and working and onboarding new clients over these past few months?
Yeah, it's been easy with the existing relationship. So I have to definitely say that there was a lot of benefit from me having these, all the clients that I have now, the large majority came with me from the firm that I was at in New York. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And having those, the client that just recently signed yesterday, I've known them since I worked at that firm in 2002, wow. And they just came on board now 4 years later after I left that firm. But we still picked up right where we left off, right? So it was just having that history. So that has been easier for me because I've always had a negative connotation towards the word sales. Mm-hmm. And I don't consider myself to be a salesperson. When I worked at that other firm, all I did was service my clients, and they just kept referring people. And I never even thought about what do I need to do to bring in business. And it just kept coming, and we just kept growing year after year. But now that I'm on my own, it was a challenge prior to me launching my firm because it was very AUM focused, so it was always wherever I was, it was I just need to bring in accounts, right? Actual AUM. and that was a challenge for me, to be honest with you. It's just not in my nature to solicit people hey, let's get your money invested, right? So, if that happens as part of the planning process, perfect. But now that I have my own firm, it's been a lot easier because I feel like what I'm offering is true value and say, look, investing in tax is just one aspect of your overall life. What about your employee benefits, your life insurance, your estate planning, all that stuff? And I feel like I truly can help somebody and make life-changing decisions for them based on their goals and everything. So it's been easier because I don't feel like I'm selling anymore. So I'm going for the quote unquote low-hanging fruit, right? It's just those existing relationships that I've known forever. And most of them are oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Let's do it.
Totally. I'm interested in how do you explain the difference between what you were offering them at the previous firm and what you're offering now without throwing your previous firm under the bus?
That is a very good question. Well, the way I phrased it is I said, look, before we were doing reactive financial planning. So yes, I was doing your investment, your taxes, and you would call me and ask me questions. And I took my time to answer them. And sometimes that turned into meetings and actual financial planning, but there was no process to it. So I said, we were just reacting to your life situation. What I'm doing now is an ongoing proactive approach where we get ahead of it first and sit down, go through your exact situation today. And then you tell me where you want to be 5-10 years from now. And then we start working today to get those goals. And I'm going to also tell you any opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of if you're lacking on something, wherever you're weak, etc. And that's kind of how I phrase it. So it's I'm still going to be giving you advice, but before it was more you started the process by calling me and say, hey, I have a question about this. I just switched jobs, etc. And now it's no, we're going after this together. And I'm going to be there, not just here, do this, but I'm going to help you with the implementation as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You recently started a podcast, Luis, and I'm interested in how that's going. And what avenue did you expect it to fill for you? Is it a prospecting tool? Is it an opportunity for you to make your expertise known? How are you using podcast in your business?
Yes, my podcast is called On My Way to Wealth, and it's available on all major podcasting platforms. I also have a separate website from my business website called onmywaytowealth.com, where I have all the episodes as well as a blog that I do that corresponds with each episode. So people can read about it, or they can listen to it, or link directly to whatever their favorite podcasting platform is. So I started in October. Originally, I just started doing 2 episodes per month because I didn't know what I was going to get into in terms of the time. Mm-hmm. And then somebody told me, you probably should do it weekly, because then when you're not podcasting, your listeners are going to fill that void with something else, right? So it made sense, but it was also very scary because honestly, I'm well, I think I'm going to run out of stuff to talk about. I'm how many things can I possibly say? When I think about for years and years, I'm right. What else can I possibly say? I'll explain the difference between Roth and traditional, but at some point I'm what else am I going to say? So I was kind of scared to be I don't know where this is going. But one thing I wanted to do with it, I wanted to reach a wider audience, because I know that a lot of the people in my community may not be in a situation where they can't even afford the actual ongoing planning either, where they're in a situation where they're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't pay me for advice. They don't have assets to manage, but maybe they'll hear something in my podcast that they can use in their lives and help them improve their life just by one little thing that they could change, and that makes me proud, and I was like, from a marketing perspective, I mean, it's going to be great. Yes, my name is going to be out there, more search engine optimization, et cetera. But I know that it was going to be a long game because I didn't expect that I was going to launch a podcast and then start getting a whole bunch of prospects, making appointments the next month, So right now I'm on episode 29. I am doing a weekly episode every Wednesday morning. And I've been doing a lot of solo episodes lately, which has been pretty cool just to be able to record for yourself for 25 minutes. But I do love the interview format as well. So I'm going to keep mixing it up. I've had a lot of advisors from XYPN as well on it. And we just talk about whatever their niche is and then take it from there. So this month, July, for the first time, I passed 1,000 downloads in 1 month. It was 1,050. It ended up being at. And it was like 4,500 overall downloads. Just, it's not a lot per se, but it's been pretty cool. So it's been steadily growing.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge. And it's 1,000 people more that get your advice and expertise. And I love this idea that it's almost filling that hole between what you can offer and people not having really any access to information. You're able to really spread the word. How do you see your firm fitting into kind of this industry and the direction it's going and in our attempt to spread financial planning really to people that may not always have been served in this industry? Do you feel like the work that you're doing is moving that needle forward?
Yes, I think it is, but it's a very small move. And one of the things I want to do is have more impact. And I'm only one person, so I feel like at some point I'm going to tap out completely. Even if I get those clients that are going to pay me $5,000 a year each, I probably can't handle more than like 100 to 125 myself anyway, right? So that's very small. Mm-hmm. So one thing I want to do is create something that has a larger impact. I don't know what that is. I've thought about a digital course, for example, or some sort of coaching program to make it where it's like, all right, maybe I'm not ready to hire a planner, but maybe I can go through this mini boot camp of some sort that I can learn like some of the real good basics that I need right now, right? So in terms of the firm itself, I never originally intended to own my own firm, except that I knew that something was lacking. And the only way that I found where I can do this was have my own firm. But I'm beginning to see how wearing all these hats takes a toll too. I'm my chief compliance officer and I'm doing podcasts. I'm doing videos every day, a lot of social media engagement, and I need some help. Yeah. But I'm at that point where it's kind of like, well, the business hasn't taken off yet to the point where I could hire somebody. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's going to have to come beforehand. I feel like I'm going to have to hire somebody before I feel that I'm ready to do so, just because when I look at my calendar, I'm outside of tax season, there's only 29 households, but you would think I have 3,000 clients.
Totally.
Because my day is just filled. And some days I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And it's not like I'm playing video games. Like it's truly like there's a purpose for every hour that's taken up between client meetings and then a lot of like marketing and operational stuff.
Totally. That I've probably said it on the show before, but our number one most requested member benefit over these years is more hours in the day.
Yes.
It really, and even for someone who just launched, you're feeling it already. And it really is amazing how quickly we can fill our days. But then we have to be extra diligent about protecting it. And that inflection point of, is it time to hire, is an interesting point to get to. So what are your thoughts? Are you hoping to hire and train some staff members to continue to work at your firm? What are you thinking?
Yes, I do now. It's definitely, it's going to have to be, if I'm going to continue to own my own firm, the way things are going, I can't continue to be solo. So for now, I have an intern that just started yesterday.
Cool.
And, but that's going to take some time because I'm going to have to train him on certain things. And it's only going to be like 10 hours a week anyway. And he's going back to school pretty soon. So it's not going to be like the help that I need, right? Long-term, it's not going to be a fix. But for now, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to explore the opportunities of maybe getting a virtual assistant for maybe 20 hours a week or something to that extent. But ultimately, yeah, I would love to have, if money was not an object, right, have somebody that could be on the operations side of things, and then somebody that could help me with the actual planning stuff, like a paraplanner, associate planner or something to that extent.
Sounds like you need to take someone to a Yankees game.
Yes.
I'm interested, Louise, in your experience being an entrepreneur. You've already touched on it, but how did you decide that going out on your own was what was next for you? Not everyone does, and it's a big, big decision, especially being a young advisor. And in this industry, we're kind of taught that there's one way to do it. And so going against the grain and starting your own firm isn't something that everyone is talking to you about throughout your career. How did you, whether it was with your partner or family, how did you make that decision that now was the right time to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, this is an excellent question that you bring about. Well, here's the thing. Going back to New York, I was supposed to be the successor for that business, handshake agreement, nothing in writing. Mm-hmm. So I worked that firm like it was mine. I gave it my blood, sweat, and tears. I wasn't even on social media up until maybe like 2016 or something. Like I had no social media profiles. To me, it was like, I'm just working this business and someday it's going to be mine. And I realized after that didn't work out that I can't spend another 15 years building somebody else's business and it may or may not work. So I said to myself, if I go on my own, what's the worst that could happen? And I fail, and then there's always I have a CFP certification, almost 20 years in the business, IRS enrolled agent. There's no doubt in my mind that I can walk into an IRA and get a job, right?
Totally.
So I'm like, well, what's the worst that could happen? You try it, you fail, then you go get a job. I'm like, so the job that I could go get right now for the sense of security is going to be there 3 years from now. So let me just give this a try. I'm just going to go for it. So those are the two things that I thought about. It's like, I can't spend another 15 years building somebody else's business. I've gotten offers from other firms to be like, hey, just come work with us, decent salary, building their book, right? Building their business for a potential sale later. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just have my own thing. If I'm going to spend all this time anyway, because I know it's not going to be just 40 hours, right? So if I'm going to be working 50 hours plus a week, let me just do it on my own thing.
Totally. And how do you leverage community or other advisors, knowing, of course, that you're a solopreneur right now? Are you doing it on your own, or are you leaning into any sort of mastermind groups or community events to keep the momentum going?
Yes, I am definitely leaning into that. When I went to XYPN Live, I met so many cool people, and I've stayed in touch with a lot of them, some of which, like, we formed study groups.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so some people I speak to like twice a month.
Awesome.
And I feel like this is something that everyone listening out there, like, you want to be in business for yourself if you want to, right? But you don't want to be by yourself. So even if you can't hire people, you can still have a community around you, especially if you're a member of an organization like XYPN, right? So definitely lean into that. There's so many cool things that I've learned from other advisors that I feel like I would have not known that they existed, just because we are in touch with each other. We are in a mastermind group, study group, and we share things. So one of the things we do in one of the groups is like we share 2 roses and a thorn. So basically we all go around saying, well, these are the 2 things that are working great, and this is the thorn right now that I'm having. And then usually there's always somebody else that has some sort of suggestion about that thorn. I just did that actually. Let me send you my template. So it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And I would have never thought of that on my own, right? So don't try to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of stuff that's already been done by other people. So associate yourself with them. And sometimes, you just need a shoulder to cry on, really. Just like a quick text. Hey, man, I'm super overwhelmed, man. Have you looked into hiring a virtual assistant, man? What's that like? Stuff like that. Like, you definitely want to take advantage of the community.
Awesome. Great to hear. I'm interested in the fact that we are still, of course, 5-6 months into this COVID new world of ours. How has COVID impacted your firm, and in any regards, whether it's personally or professionally? But given our new state of the world and you launching right around the start of it,
Yes.
How has that been?
Yeah, it's something that I would have never pictured. It's like, wow, my firm got approved in the middle of a pandemic, with right now, right, 40 something million people unemployed. But believe it or not, when I look at my revenue for the past 4 years, this is in fact my highest grossing year so far, because the people that are onboarding that were from previous relationships, right, that I had, are just doing it regardless of COVID-19. You know, thankfully, a lot of them have been impacted in the sense of like, hey, my kids are home kind of thing, but they still have their income and their jobs. And they're like, yeah, this is great, right? So most of the people that haven't been able to do it, it might be more from a time thing. Like, you know, I'm super busy right now. Like my kids are home. I don't even know what we're doing, but I'm super interested. Can we push it 1 month? Can we talk back in September? Like, I think this is great for me, et cetera, right? So it's really worked out for me. And it's also helped the fact that I've been doing this online for about 4 years, but now because of COVID, it has seemed more of a norm. And I feel like it opens up that opportunity to work with strangers that perhaps were not willing to talk to somebody that they've never met in person. You know, so I've been doing some online meetings, you know, like somebody found me through the XYPN portal and they just needed an hourly arrangement, but we never met in person. Like they were completely fine with just, hey, yeah, let's hop on a Zoom. And they paid me $300 and we spoke for an hour and that's it. There was no prep for the call. There was no post. It was just, let's chat for an hour. I'll tell you my advice. And there's $300. And, you know, we have the relationship now where like they might become a client in the future. So that's been great.
That's wonderful. We had Kenneth Klabundi, a founding XYPN member, on the podcast several months ago at the start of the pandemic, talk about his experience having worked with clients kind of through now 2 or 3 recessions, as he says. And he really talked about how this is the most opportune time for advisors to demonstrate value and to demonstrate the need and the service that they offer to clients. So that's great to hear that you're seeing that. We don't have a crystal ball, of course, Luis, but I'm interested in your kind of theoretical observation and view of our industry and the direction it's going, especially now with COVID and especially now with kind of the movement that XYPN is part of, which is allowing advisors to work with clients in a real capacity. Where do you see this industry moving over the next 10 years?
I feel like this is going to become the standard where people that don't have assets to invest are going to be able to work with advisors and pay them quarterly and monthly fees. And I feel like working remotely is also going to become very normal. My goal is, or my hope is for the industry to become more of a profession, to be looked at it that way, to have a clear path. That is what I feel like is going to happen because there's a lot of people interested in that. Like in my case, I had no idea what a financial planner was. There was no financial planning major offered in my school. So here I am with a Bachelor of Economics, no idea what I'm going to do with my life, graduating college. So this is what I see is people working on some sort of service model that they can pay monthly, quarterly, not necessarily invest money, or if they do, it's going to be at a nominal fee. And then also more diverse people in the industry, both as clients and advisors, more women, people of color. I see that happening a lot, and younger people as well, because I know when you look at most CFP certificates, they're probably on the older side, right?
Yeah.
So I see an influx of younger minds and more diverse minds entering the business and just having all kinds of specialties like other professions do it. So you have doctors that are podiatrists and some are heart surgeons, right? I feel like right now, the general industry, everybody's like a generalist. And I love the fact that I see people like, no, I only work with, you know, millennials and I only work with doctors and physicians. And some people go super deep in the niche, right? Oh, I work with people in their 3rd year of this. It's amazing to see. You know, I see it where people can search for a planner, no longer bound by a zip code. And that's my hope for it. For the industry as a whole and become a profession.
Totally. If we can continue, XYPN likes to believe that we have 100x impact, or that every advisor that we help could help upwards of 100 clients, if not more, live their great lives. And as we continue to support you and other advisors to differentiate themselves with the niche and the background, the service offering and the service model, things like that, we can hit more diverse clients and more diverse consumers and spread the word of financial planning, because it is still so amazing how frequently people don't know that financial planning is something that they deserve and that is accessible. What has your experience been talking to the average consumer about the work that you do? Are you sensing that people are recognizing that this is an industry that they deserve into, or is there still that stigma that it's old, male, and pale and stale?
I like that word deserve. I really like that. Never thought about it that way. It's true. People deserve financial planning.
They do.
This is awesome. So can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I'm wondering, as you continue to promote your firm with average consumers that you come into contact with, are you sensing that people are hearing more about this industry as a place that they can come to for advice? What's the general take on clients as you meet them?
Oh, yeah. I feel like there's a more educated consumer there as well. Like before, you never heard the word fiduciary, for example. And I feel like now there are people who are specifically searching for a fiduciary. The people that have found me through the XYPN or the NAPFA portals have been searching specifically for like fee only, fiduciary, things of that sort. And so there's a more educated consumer out there. I think that a lot more people know now what financial planning is. I've seen, I think some schools also now offer financial planning as an actual major, right? So which is great. So I feel like overall, yeah, people are searching for it and know what it is, and the fact that we're now offering so many different service models is amazing, so people, yeah, they reach out already like with a list of questions to ask me, how do you get compensated? And right. Which is awesome, right? It's very transparent, which is why I have all that stuff on my website anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. You started this podcast with listing out kind of your professional development and all these different designations that you got in school that you went to, things like that. What kind of continuing education do you pursue right now as an established advisor?
So one thing that I do is I read a lot of the kids' stuff. Before joining XYPN, I was already listening to the podcast and reading the blogs. And then I signed up for like the professional version of it because I realized in my type of field, right, like I don't want to just click boxes to get continuing education. It is a lot, right? In my case, like I'm doing the CFP, NAPFA, and also my enrolled agent certification. I have to do 72 hours every 3 years. So I break it up to 24 hours. And sometimes they don't coincide. So I had to do like 24 hours of enrolled agent plus the CFP stuff. And when I had a life insurance license and mortgage, I was just feel like I was doing CE every week. So I feel like I don't want to just click through boxes just to comply. Like I actually want to learn and better myself. So the main source for me, believe it or not, is the KITSs. I read and then I take the quiz at the end. And then for the enrolled agent, that's separate. So I use one of those vendors online to do that. But I know that now, which I was like almost doing jumping jacks when I saw the email from the KITS's CE that now you can have up to 16 hours that will count towards both the enrolled agent and CFP. I was like, what? NC, CE for ethics too? I'm like, this is awesome.
Yes.
So, yeah, and then I do a lot of NAPFA CE. I get their emails that say they have a education opportunity. I just usually just go ahead and sign up and do that way. Yeah, so I'm doing CE that I can truly learn. So I'm no longer just like signing up for random webinars just to get the 1 hour of CE. And I'm like, no, like I really want to learn and continue to grow.
Yeah, that intentionality deserves credit because it sounds like you're a busy advisor already. So any hour that you're spending, you do want to make sure that there's a return on investment for it.
Definitely.
So, kudos to you for putting your professional development first and foremost. As we round out this episode, Luis, I'm interested in you speaking directly to our listeners, maybe some folks like you just a few years ago that were contemplating whether now was the right time to start and if being an entrepreneur is worth trying. Because trust me, there's still so many people that are not interested in ever running their own business.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest compliments we as an XYPN staff can receive is that XYPN helped advisors be business owners when they didn't think they could be. We can help entrepreneurs be that. And I'm interested in your advice to some folks about that inflection point in their own personal and professional careers.
Yeah, I would say be flexible if you decide to open up your own firm. I feel like you can be very successful in the business and not own your own firm. So don't rush to it, number one. I would say don't graduate college and then all of a sudden launch your own firm. I feel like if that's the case, like if you're on the younger side, you just graduated, you want to pursue this business, go intern, go work in another firm as an associate advisor, paraplanner, whatever, and get a good handle on it before you decide. Because there's so many aspects, so many hats you have to wear. and it's not for everybody. So like in my case, I'm not good at sales, right? But now I'm on my own. Like, so if I don't bring in the business, nobody else will. And some people might not be comfortable with that. So think about your strengths and then what else you can delegate if you decide to go into your business, and be flexible. Like, I've already changed my fee schedule so many times, and I haven't even been in business for a year. Also, there's so many aspects of things that you need to do, like compliance and things like that. So, which obviously being a member of XYPN makes it a lot easier, but it's still hard to do. So you want to see, where do you want to focus most of your time? It is cool to have your own firm. And in my case, like, I can travel, I can move out of state if I want to, because I'm running a virtual practice. So there's a lot of perks to it, but it is not easy. So if you decide to go this route, just be flexible enough to know that at some point you might have to make a decision to hire somebody else, or just put in some serious hours and do a lot of stuff that you might not want to do, but that has to be done.
Love it. Love it. Said from an advisor who is doing it right now. So, Luis, thank you so much for your thoughtful responses and your passion and your energy. I can sense kind of the commitment you have to this industry and to the work you do. It's palpable and really amazing to witness. So thank you so much for being an advisor at XYPN and being an advisor to your clients, because they sure are lucky to work with you. And I think after this podcast, if not already, an idol for some advisors out there that they may want to try to emulate one day. So thank you, Luis, so much for this interview.
No pressure, huh? Well, thank you, Maddie.
No pressure at all.
Well, that keeps me going sometimes, believe it or not. There are times I'm just like, oh, should I just go get a job somewhere?
Don't you dare.
But those kind of words that you just said, I'm like, no, I got to stay the course.
You do very important work. Thank you so much for being part of this industry. Avocado toast, selfies, a mountain of student loan debt. Gen Y is anything but traditional, and with over 75 million people, it's a population you don't want to ignore. Learn more about how to serve this unique population in our guide called Attract and Profitably Serve Millennial Clients in Your RIA. Discover 3 key ways to tap into the millennial market and 6 things that they want from their financial advisor. Visit xyplanningnetwork.com/millennials for your free copy. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes, and finally, to find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You are not alone, and you are not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm, and that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.